الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Continuing our new series on the methods and the roadmap of giving da'wah to various groups. Last week we began talking about the mushrikun, the polytheists, and how we can give da'wah to them towards Islam. And we talked also about the means of da'wah, the pillars of da'wah. We also spoke about the use of evidences in giving da'wah, and the two types of evidences, logical and textual. Today I want to pick up from where we left off last week in talking about types of arguments we can present towards a polytheist, a mushrik, to bring them towards Islam. And we said last week that when it comes to the polytheist, the methodology that you can use, and you should use, is to focus on what is polytheism, what is shirk, who's a mushrik, and then lead them also to knowing Allah is one. And also, that the oneness of Allah in His rububiyyah, His lordship, necessitates His oneness in worship. So last week we said there are three areas of concern or talking points. Number one, the definition of polytheism and a polytheist. What is shirk and what's a mushrik? Because the one who does shirk doesn't think he's doing shirk. Okay, everyone says they're monotheist, but that's wrong. We have to explain to them what's shirk, what's a mushrik. Number two, we want to prove to them that Allah is one. And logically, it is impossible for Allah to be two or three or more. Allah is not only one, it's impossible for Him to be more than one. True Creator is only one. And this is important because the polytheist, the mushrik, will concede that God should be one, or that there is one God, but he does shirk. Or he may argue that, why can't God be two or three? And this is batil, this is falsehood, aqlan and shar'an. Like textually, intellectually. It's wrong. God can only be one. Allah, the Creator, the one deserving worship, can only be one. And the last point, talking point, is that if someone concedes or agrees to it, the fact that Allah is one, fi rububiyyah, in His lordship, one who creates, one who provides, one who gives life, sustains life. If you agree to this, then it's wajib to worship that one God, no one else. So we're going to see that Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, it leads to Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. Tawheed of worship leads, lordship leads to Tawheed of worship. So let's come back to the first point. We finished with it, and we want to review it. Which we said is that we have to first explain to a mushrik, a polytheist, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can only be one. So there we said there are levels of arguments you can present to prove that Allah can only be one. For the Muslim, it's very easy. But for the polytheist who is non-Muslim, he or she doesn't see that. Right? So it's important to highlight the blind spots. And this is again the usul we're using. As Muslims, we go back to our foundations. So we said there are many arguments. We presented one last week. We'll go back to it. And then we'll present another argument to prove that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one and can only be one. And first thing we have to know is that the arguments you can present are varying at different levels. Lower, higher. So you could say a simple argument. If someone is stubborn or argumentative, or maybe he's not understanding that once more, you can present a second. So layer, you can say level 1, level 2. And this is also important because we said last week, the mad'u, the audience who you're calling to, you have to know their hal. Someone educated, someone uneducated. An ami, a lay person, the basic argument will work. Someone who is maybe more well-read, he may argue. So you might have to say, okay, look, I'll show you logically it's impossible for there to be two gods. So let's start with the first one. We said last week, Imam At-Turtushi al-Maliki, Maliki scholar, he gave an argument in his kitab, Siraj al-Muluk, page 47 and 48. And the gist of the argument is, just like in the world, there can only be one ruler per country or per land. Likewise, there can only be one creator in the universe. Right? This is qiyas, analogy. Like in the world today, one president, one prime minister, one king and a kingdom. Right? You don't have two leaders. He says, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that created heavens and earth, is more deserving He be one for the whole universe. Why would it make sense inside the world? We all agree there can only be one head, CEO. But in the alam, there's 2, 3, 400, or Hinduism, thousands. That's غير معقول, doesn't make sense. Because in the dunya, we don't do that. And we know this is good in the dunya because it achieves the results. If you have one CEO, one ruler or manager, one prime minister, there's only one command, one area of command that's coming from. If you have 10 managers you have to answer to, then you're never going to get an answer. So this is an argument he presents, which is simple and easy. Everyone would agree and concede because there's no company that has 2 CEOs. Right? Because if he says, I don't agree with that, they say, okay, show me in dunya why we don't have that. So, bin qiyas al-awla, we said, bin bab al-awla. The argument is established on a principle called qiyas al-awla. Allah is more deservingly the fact that He should be one for His creation and for His world. Because in the dunya, we see it to be something good for there to be one president in one country, one business manager. So then it should be more good for the world to have one creator. It's called min bab al-awla. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. This is the argument. And this is the easiest argument and one of the great tools that the ulama they use. Qiyas al-awla. It's called qiyas al-awla. It's called analogy to the higher order. Right? They have other words for it too. So you say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more deservingly should be one than He comes to His creation. Because in the dunya we say there can only be one manager. Why then Allah has 2? Remember, human beings, we usually, in all of our life, we need help. That's the nature of man. We can't do things by ourselves. But when it comes to rulership, we're only one. So qiyas al-awla, the way it works, the analogy to a higher order, the way it works, you take something which is considered good for the humans or the creation, and if it's considered good from all angles, for Allah, it should be more deserving that He has that quality or that characteristic. In the worldly life, human beings can't do anything by themselves. But when it comes to leadership, we're always one leader. So therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more deserving that He's one when it comes to His creation and His lordship. Because if someone denied that, he would have to explain why in the world we don't do that. Why is there no shirk in the world when it comes to leadership, but then among Allah there is going to be shirk. See, it doesn't make sense. So someone would naturally agree. So that's a good argument. It's proven in the Quran as well. Surah Yusuf, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, when he asked his people, the 2 people in the jail, Ya Sahibi as-Sijn, all 2 companions in jail, أَأَرْبَابٌ مُتَفَرِّقُونَ خَيْرٌ أَمِ اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارُ. What's better, 2 separate deities or one all-powerful, almighty God? Look at his argument. So Yusuf alayhi salam, before he answered their dream interpretation, he asked them the rhetorical question. It's a good da'wah. Sometimes you don't have to tell someone, you ask them, what do you think is better? 2 gods, 2 separate gods or deities, or one all-powerful, all-irresistible deity? They didn't answer because this is a rhetorical question. It's clear. One is better than 2 here. And the point what Yusuf is arguing is that Allah, who has the characteristics of being wahid, one, al-qahar, all-irresistible, right? The one who's all-powerful, these qualities befit only one God. And the argument, if you want to unpack it, what was he trying to prove there? If you have 2 gods, it's not better than having one. Because 2 gods will create confusion. One will say, do it, this is halal, the other one will say it's haram. Who do you answer? You see, a deity, brothers and sisters, a God, when we say ilah, it's not just a Rabb. Ilah also gives amr wa nahi. That's ibadat, tawheed al-ibadah, right? Ibab al-amr wa nahi. But tawheed al-rububiyyah is connected to al-khalq, the creation and all the actions of Allah. So why is it important? He said, which is better? Of course, one. Because one God, all-powerful, one command, one prohibition, one chain of command. Makes sense. If you have 2, confusion. Christianity, that's one of their problems. They have 3 gods. Ask any Christian, who do you pray to? They say Jesus. How about the Father? Okay, Lord's Prayer. Okay, that's it. How about the Holy Ghost? What does he get? Nothing. They don't pray to him anything. See, why is he doing there? They say, So you see, they're confused. You have 3 gods, who do you pray to? You ask a Christian, if you're drowning, who do you make dua to? Isa, Holy Ghost, the Father. By the time he finds out, he died. Because he's in the water drowning. And if you don't believe, they can't answer. Tell them, see, you don't have, what's better? Wahid al-Qahar. Allah is one. His chain of command is one. In the dunya, we understand that. Because if we had to answer to 3 different bosses to take leave and permission, you're not going to leave. One says, no, you're going. One says, you're going. One says that. And there's 3 of them, so they can't even make a deal. Right? So the point I'm trying to highlight is, everyone agrees. That's why they didn't argue with him. They knew he was right. So this is min bab al-awla. Another example Allah uses in the Quran when He gives the example of the slaves, master. Which is better, a master who has one master for many slaves, or a slave for one master, or a slave who has many masters? And of course, the Quraysh would obviously agree that one is better for one, because that's how they used to live. If they had a maid or a servant or a slave, it's his. No, he doesn't share in it. So why Allah is sharing in His creation? So min babil awla, when someone were to argue, this is easy argument. No one can deny it. And so for a Muslim, we have to prove to a polytheist this point, because they think shirk is something which is acceptable. They think it's acceptable to have two gods. It's not. Because in their aqidah, there is no such thing as two gods anyways. Right? Like I said, there's no religion that believes two all-powerful, all-equivalent, all-capable gods. One overcomes the other. Then one is not God and one is God. God is one. And if you argue that, because they'll say this is true, one God overcomes all of them. In Zoroastrianism, God of evil and darkness, and God of light and goodness. The good one will overcome the evil one. So the evil one's not a God because he became overcame by the other. So forget about him. But they still worship the other one. That's the problem. So Muslims, we have to not take Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Shirk to be self-evident to everybody. Some people, their fitrah got corrupted because they were raised considering it. But most people, their fitrah is still there. They know it doesn't make sense. That's why you will not find someone who argues logically or textually that polytheism is correct. They know it goes against the fitrah. So this is a simple argument. Some may say, okay, we need a more advanced argument maybe. Maybe someone won't accept it and say, hey, what's possible? They could be two all-powerful gods. Why is it logically impossible? Now we're going to present the argument the ulama they present. And they use this argument. And it's an argument that Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah generally accept. And so do the people of misguidance and deviation like the Asha'ira wal Mutakallimun. The Asha'ira wal Maturidiyya, they also accept this argument. But they do it differently and they don't do it correctly. Okay, and it's important for us when it comes to da'wah that we take our da'wah from the Quran and Sunnah and understood as understood by the way of the Salaf. And that's why we're talking about this series. Because a lot of the arguments presented in the da'wah scene are the arguments of the mutakallimun, the people of philosophical rhetoric, Ash'aris, Maturidis, other groups like this. And their understanding of the deen, as much as logical as they claim, they put you in big problem if you take their arguments. They have a lot of issues. But this argument, generally, most Muslim scholars agree to it if presented correctly. And the argument is called the argument of exclusion. The argument is called the argument of exclusion. Dalilu tamanu' in Arabic. The argument of exclusion. And it's taken from the books of the ulama. For example, you can see it in Sharh al-Tahawiyya of Imam Ibn Abdul Hanafi. Ibn Abdul Hanafi, rahimahullah, the commentator on the great Aqidah book, Aqidah Tahawiyya. That book, explanation or commentary to Tahawiyya, it's in English, obviously, and also in Arabic originally. That is one of the best books for Aqidah, for the Muslim. One of the most advanced and most referential books that you can go back to study the Aqidah in general. And that book, the ulama always advise someone to study and to master because of its excellence. Obviously, a little bit difficult. But in there, in pages 30 to 31, he presents the argument. And he presents it from the light of Ahl Sunnah, the correct way of presenting his argument. That it's impossible for there to be two or more all-powerful, all-capable gods. It's impossible. Okay, brothers, when we say impossible, we're saying mustahil. It's impossible. Aqlan, intellectually, it's not possible. Forget about shar'an, like legislatively. There's nowhere in the Quran or Sunnah that says there's two gods. Right? But we're saying here mustahil aqlan, even intellectually, logically, it's impossible. You wouldn't get there. So this is important because the language mustahil, when we see someone say something's impossible, it means it cannot happen. But there's different types of impossibilities. Badi'a al-Fajr, Ibn Abdul Qaadir class talked about different types of impossibilities. So we're talking impossibility logically. So if someone said, okay, what if there could be? This is what the polytheists say. How about, okay, what if we assume there was? So we're going to argue, if you were to assume that, it's not possible still. So we know Allah is only one, but if that person said, okay, why not? This is what we're trying to answer. Because the polytheist who is sincere, he knows already that Allah is one. Most polytheists, they're not even, certain about the fact that God is more than one. They don't even live like that, many of the Hindus and polytheists. They live like God is one. But if someone were to say, okay, prove to me. So this is the argument. So the argument, you can find in Tahawi, he mentions the whole thing. But I'll just mention it in a summarized way because it makes it easier. And it's in the Quran too. That's another thing. So we'll get out the verse first. It's in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions it in Surah Al-Mu'minun, ayah 84 and 85. So it's in the Quran. And so in the Quran, Allah says, say to them, Allah says there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not take a creator, and had there been, so Allah, مَا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ مِن وَلَدٍ, Allah did not take a son, وَمَا كَانَ مَعَهُ مِنْ إِلَهٍ, and there's no deity alongside him. I believe it's 84, 85. Anyone can double check which exact ayah number it is. So Allah says, مَا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ مِن وَلَدٍ, Allah never took a child. Okay, respond to the questions. وَمَا كَانَ مَعَهُ مِنْ إِلَهٍ, and he has no deity besides him. And had there been such a case, that a God alongside Allah or a son with Allah, what would happen? That each God will take that which He created, وَلَعَلَى بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ, and each one will fight one another. I think 85 or something. 91, that one. 2391. So if you go there, this ayah, Allah makes it clear. If there is no God besides Allah, He doesn't have a son. But had there been, keep on, had there been, what would happen? Each God will try to take that which He has created away from the other. وَلَعَلَى بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ, each one will try to fight over the other. Hence, when you look at the books of Hinduism, it's cosmic warfare. One God is fighting another God, is stealing the other guy's wife. Yes, it's in their books. That's why you can't read their kitab and take it seriously. There's no difference between that and what we see today in the TV shows and stuff, because it's like mythology. But if you ask them sincerely, you believe in that? They'll say, no, it's allegorical, or they have to make something out. It's mythology. Greek mythology, nafsu shay. Right? Imagine Zeus is supposed to be the biggest god, he's stealing someone else's wife. What kind of God is that? Not even a God, first of all. But you can understand that if someone were to say there's more than gods, then this is necessary. Allah says, then they fight each other. Clear, brothers? So we look at the world, there's no cosmic warfare. You look at the sky, the moon is coming after the sun. The rain falls one time, khalas. Somebody's born and not unborn. And then Allah is one. The living experience of the universe shows Allah is one. So the argument, if you unpack it, Ibn Abdul Qaadir mentions it, Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah also accepts it. This is the gist of it. The argument, I'm going to summarize it. They say, imagine that if there were, two all-powerful gods in the universe. Imagine. And one wants to create a child, and the other one doesn't agree to creating this child. Because now we're imagining two all-powerful, this is the key word, all-powerful, all-capable, all-perfect. Not possible, but we're saying imagine. And one of them, because he has a will, he wants to make a child. Another one, he has a will, he doesn't want that child to be created. So the Shaykh, then the ulama say that one of three possibilities are going to happen. So pay attention to this, because this will show you that's logically impossible. Number one, they both get what they want. Like both gods were all powerful, all capable, all perfect. One wants the child to be created, the other one doesn't want it to be created. The first option is that, or outcome, both of them get what they want. So the child is born, then unborn. Or born and then immediately unborn. So one creates it, the other one takes it out of existence. That happen on earth, brothers and sisters? That happens? No. That doesn't happen. So that's also impossible, because we know that doesn't happen in the world. And also we know it's impossible because every day a child is being born, it's not disappearing. I mean, me and you are proof. So that option is batil. Immediately, right? Nobody disappearing, nothing's popping in and out of existence. Option two, both of them do not get what they want. So a child is not born or unborn, rather nothing's happening. That's also option is batil. Because every day something's happening. Kulli yawmin huwa fi sha'an. Every day, read the tafsir. Every day Allah creates someone, takes someone's life. Allah provides someone, doesn't provide another. Kulli yawm. Al-shamsi wal-duhaha wal-qamari talaha. Something's happening every day. It's not like we're sitting in the world, nothing's happening. And then there's no stalemate. Right? There's no stalemate here. Something's happening and something else is not happening. So option two is nonsense, because that means no children being born, nobody's eating, nobody's drinking, nothing in the universe is happening. Third option, which is the only one. One God or deity gets what he wants and not the other. And this means the God who gets what he wants is a true God, and the other one is a false God. Khalas, only one God. Well, is he clear with this? The last option, which is the real one, only one God gets what he wants, and that God who gets what he wants is a true God. The other one who didn't get what he wants is not a God. Because our Lord is supposed to do فَعَالُ لِمَا يُرِيدُ إِنَّ رَبَّكَ فَعَالُ لِمَا يُرِيدُ إِنَّ رَبَّكَ فَعَالُ مَا يَشَاءُ. But any God who can do what he wants, not a God. Khalas. He didn't want God. You ask a Hindu now, who's the true God? They say Brahman. You ask another one, Khuda Khair. So you don't know one God. Why you have the other guy? You say, well, see, no, doesn't exist. He's not a God, even according to you. Then Qudi Amr, Allahu al-Wahid. It's a very good argument. It's even in the Quran, and this is the argument Ahlul Sunnah Jama'ah and generally accepted. But you have to present the argument correctly, because Ash'a'ira, they present it incorrectly. You have to present it correctly. So this argument is called the argument of exclusion. If someone is into the aqliyat, the logical argument, he presents this argument, he has nothing to say. Because you have to argue the first two options are valuable. They're not. But we're in the world, nothing's happening. We're in the world, something coming in and out of existence. Some may come and think they're smart and say, how about quantum mechanics, brother? Right? And that's also, we don't study physics with time. Brother, come on. Quantum mechanics, does it really believe something's in two places at once? Some people are smart and say, you know, quantum mechanics, they say things can be in two places at once. No, that's one of the two interpretations. Stop lying. Depends what interpretation you're taking. And it doesn't mean things are in two places at once. If things can be, according to superposition, be in two places at once. Not, it is. And I'm saying this because the quantum mechanics is now the new crutch that they lean upon. Quantum mechanics doesn't help you at all. And the more you study these stuff, brothers and sisters, you start realizing the more they go into science, the more they get in trouble. Because science keeps bringing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala back. Today, scientists are writing about the return of the God hypothesis. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reappearing in the science all over again. They try to get him out of there, but you can't. Allah created the universe. And I'm saying this because the kuffar are the ones who are doing this. So even someone who didn't agree to this, like for example, someone may say, how about if both gods agree? I share something to me at Justice. What do they say? Okay, what if they make a deal? One will create stone, another one will create the stars. If they're making deals, not a true God. Because he has inability. And also your Lord has a will. He does whatever he wants. Why does he have to seek permission from anybody? That's not a God. Me and you, our will is dependent on Allah's will. So if you try to bend this anyway, you can't get out of it. This argument is mashallah, very good argument to prove that it's impossible for there to be two gods. We already know that, but just in case someone didn't agree with you, you present this argument, and that person then will have to concede otherwise. He's doing what's called mukabara. Mukabara is arrogance. And when you debate somebody, you're supposed to debate to get to the haqq, not debate someone just for the sake of it. So a lot of problems we see today when someone debates with somebody, someone has to be sincere aslan. If he's not sincere, there's no point in arguing, because you argue this and he'll just say, no, but I don't believe it. That's mukabara. It's not munadhara anymore. It's mukabara. You're arrogant. You're not even here to debate with me. You're not here to see the truth. You just want to argue otherwise, because you have to respond to this argument. In Alhamdulillah, the Muslim scholars, as you can see, they know these arguments. And where is it, brothers? Fil kitab. This is in the Quran. This is what I want to highlight, last week's lesson. Hujjaj aqliya are in the Quran. It's in the Quran. That's what we do. Side benefit now. The Ash'a'ira, the Ash'a'ira are the next largest group of Muslims alongside Ahlul Sunnah Jama'ah, the Aqeedah and the Sahaba, the way of the Salaf and Sahaba. And I say second biggest in terms of their numbers and also their representation. The Ash'a'ira, for many of us who are familiar with, are people of misguidance. But they claim themselves to be Ahlul Sunnah Jama'ah. We have to know the Ahlul Dalala wa Zayg, the people of misguidance. When they present this argument, they present it wrong. They take the argument, but they use the wrong ayah. They use Surah Anbiya, ayah 22. And the ulama said, this is wrong. They're supposed to use 23:91. They use 21:22. And someone will say, why? Why did they use the wrong ayah? Because they have a wrong understanding of Tawheed. Pay attention, brothers and sisters. This teaches us a side benefit. When it comes to presenting Islam, we must take from the right sources, Kitab, Sunnah, Salaf, Ulama, upon the way of the Salaf, not anybody who has argument, because those arguments are going to get you in trouble. So they argue the argument, but they take it the wrong angle. And Ibn Izz and Hanafi mentioned this, and Ibn Taymiyyah before him. The reason why they go to 21:22 is because their understanding of Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is that Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. Okay, so if you don't know that Ash'a'ira believe Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Worship is Tawheed al-Worship. And that's a nonsense. It's nonsense. How many Tawheeds are there, brothers and sisters? How many categories? 3. So they believe Tawheed of Allah's Lordship, it is the same thing as Tawheed of Allah's worship. So if you have Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, you're a Muslim. Essentially. The other thing, obviously, the Tawheed al-Ibadah is part of Deen, but they said that the very thing that differentiates is Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. They have to believe there's only one God capable of creating. That's their definition of Tawheed. There's only one creator, one inventor, originator. And this is wrong. Because the Quraysh, did they have a problem with that Tawheed, brothers? إِن سَأَلْتُهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ يَقُولُونَ اللَّهِ. If you ask them, create heaven and earth, they say Allah. And one of the du'at said, the Quraysh were just lying. The Quraysh were lying. Allah quoted it. What's going on here? And if they were lying, pay attention, you'd be laughing. But this is what they say, the Quraysh were just lying. The Quraysh were lying. So if they're lying upon their tongues, were they lying with their hearts? How about lisan hal? Were they begging Allah in the ocean? They were lying that time? مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. So no, the Quraysh believed Tawheed Rububiyyah. They had a problem with Uluhiyyah. So the Ash'ari, they took this argument wrong and used the wrong ayah, and also they did not see any other evidence to really establish Tawheed Rububiyyah except for this. And this ayah that they use is not like the one we're using. 2391 gets the job done because it includes both categories of Tawheed. Why? Both, 2 out of 3 categories. Why? مَا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ مِنْ وَلَدٍ وَمَا كَانَ مَعَهُ مِنْ إِلَهٍ. Both parts are mentioned there. That he didn't take a son, and there's no God besides him. So this shows Tawheed Uluhiyyah, worship. And if you have Tawheed Uluhiyyah, it includes Rububiyyah. But if you take their argument, they say Tawheed Rububiyyah, but there's no Uluhiyyah. And we're going to get to that later. The only reason I'm highlighting this is that when we're doing da'wah, these details count. Because it's not correct for someone saying, Da'i Allah, and he's just mixing everything, fruit salad or cocktail. No. If you're going to teach from your aqidah, قُلْ كُلٌّ يَعْمَلُ عَلَى شَاكِلَتِهِ. See, everyone acts in accordance to his intention, or you can interpret it as aqidah. That everyone operates from his aqidah. Kafir from his kufr, Muslim from his iman, Sunni from the sunnah, Shi'i from the Shi'ism. Everyone acts in accordance to his intention. This is a fa'idah because this is your worldview. But imagine today someone says, I'm going to prove to you God exists. He's not going to bring you an argument except that he believes it's based on the foundations he agrees with. When we present arguments based on our concept that Tawheed is 3 categories, the Rububiyyah is not Uluhiyyah. And I'm saying this because it teaches also the value of good argumentation. Good argumentation will always benefit you because it will lead you to the goal and it will save you the headache of someone catching you. Because some people are clever, right? They'll catch you in the assumptions you're making and then knock your house down. For example, if you take the Ash'ari approach and use 21-22, so Surah Anbiya ayah 22, the max that you proved is Tawheed of what? Rububiyyah. You did not prove lordship, worship. Someone may say, so yes, there could be one God, but why should I worship the one God? Or it doesn't even clearly show as much as the other one does. The other one's more clear. So when you argue, it's a clear argument and the one that's not clear. Alhamdulillah, that's a good benefit for us. Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah explained the argument saying that the argument, how it works, it shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's impossible for him to be another deity besides him, who can create, who is a creator in the universe, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only creator who is independent, and is the only creator who has the independent will. But if we believe, though, we believe that there's a deity who is independent, who is the only one who is independent of creation, ability to create, provide, etc. in the universe, alongside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that's connecting 2 opposites at the same time. And that will be logical because we said it's going to create the confusion of whose will gets enacted, who gets what the final say, and that's not happening in the universe. So it leads to impossibility. طيب, let's move to the second argument now. Once you can prove to a polytheist that Allah is one, logically, we need to now define what shirk is. What is polytheism? What's shirk? And what is a polytheist, a mushrik? So if we don't start with this second one, because if someone is following your argument right now, they say, okay, fine, Allah is one. The second thing I want to show them now, if you believe Allah is one, you have to also believe if you give anything that belongs to Allah to someone besides Allah, that's called shirk, polytheism in Islam. And most polytheists, the mushrik, doesn't believe he's doing shirk. Guys, if you talk to a mushrik, he doesn't believe he's doing shirk. Because he thinks that when he's worshipping the other gods, he's worshipping all these gods. He said, what's wrong with that? We'll tell him, well, if you say there's only one God, and we just proved that, then that one God is the only God who has certain qualities and certain duties and rights. If you give those same duties, qualities, rights to somebody else, then that's shirk. And if you don't define what shirk is, you fall into something called a fallacy of ambiguity. You talk to someone and say polytheism. I have a legislative definition. He has a dictionary definition. We're talking over each other. So always when you start to discuss with someone, what do? Define your terms. Why? Because you have to make sure he knows what you're talking about. So when you say shirk, according to the Quran and Sunnah, when he says polytheism, according to his dictionary definition or whatever, a lot of these people, when they talk to people, they forget to define the terminology they're using. When you say Allah, you're talking about the true one creator. When you say God, better word deity, you mean the one who is being worshipped. You have to define this. If you don't, the person is going to say, yeah, I agree with you. And then you find out later he doesn't agree with you because the whole time he had a different definition. So whose fault is it? Yours, because that's not how you discuss. First you're supposed to say, let's define our terminology. And it's a very common technique for those who don't want to argue properly. They will use ambiguity and then they'll change the definition in the middle, when they're losing. Say, I didn't mean that, I mean this. And they're like, what's this guy doing? The whole time we're talking about something else. In the Quran, Allah talks about polytheism, and the Sunnah as well. But the ulama give us a qa'idah. We're going to use the principle Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he mentioned. Because all the arguments I'm presenting here mainly are from Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim and those great ulama who presented these arguments for da'wah. This is their arguments. So one of the qawa'id, one of the principles here, whoever, so this is the principle of shirk now, whoever equates other than Allah with Allah in one of his unique characteristics, then that person is a polytheist. Whoever equates, or you can even say gives, because equate here means gives or turns over. I'm going to use the equates here. So it makes equal between Allah and other than Allah in that which is unique, or the unique qualities of Allah or characteristics of Allah, then that person is a polytheist. That's a mushrik. The one who gives some of the khasa'is, the unique qualities of Allah, ila ghayrillah, to other than Allah. That's shirk, brothers. That's it. That's a mushrik. And this definition is based on the definition of shirk. So what's the definition of shirk? Taswiyatullah or taswiyatullah bighayrillah or taswiyatu bighayrillah billah fima huwa min khasa'isillah. To equate that which is belonging to Allah, of His qualities, unique qualities, to other than Allah. So anytime you have someone making equal between Allah and someone else, in the unique qualities that only belong to Allah, that's shirk and that's a mushrik. And this is taken from Majmu' Fatawa of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, volume 1, page 104, and also other places in that book, and Dar Ta'arud Aql wa Naql, volume 10, page 279. And other places Ibn Taymiyyah, he makes this argument. So what do we learn from this? What is shirk? And what is a mushrik? You see, brothers and sisters, if we don't know what shirk is, you can't call someone mushrik. And if you don't know what shirk is, you can't talk to a mushrik and prove to him that you're doing shirk. You might ask you, why am I doing polytheism? You have to give him a technical definition. And our definition shows us that shirk can be, it's a wide term. It's not limited to any one of the three categories of shirk, tawheed. You can fall into shirk in any three categories of tawheed. So very important. Shirk, you have to know the definition. Again, the mutakallimun, the asha'ira wal maturidiyya and others, they have a problem in the definition of shirk. Because they have a problem in the definition of tawheed. You guys following me? It's a trend. Every argument we're going to present, we're going to see that the other arguments available are not good. And the reason I keep highlighting this, because we study the Aqidah every week in this masjid, in order to allow us to get to this point where we can teach other people about Islam. If you don't know what you believe, you can't call someone to what Islam. You don't know what you believe yourself. And a lot of people, you see when they're doing da'wah, they're taking the arguments of people whose Aqidah is not correct. And it's because we're skipping steps. You study the Aqidah to save yourself and your family. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum. Save yourself wa ahlikum nara. Then you turn towards the people. But now if someone says, what's shirk? And you say shirk is to associate a partner in lordship. No, that's not shirk. Shirk is wide. So what do we take from this definition? There's a key point, which is sharing between Allah and other than Allah. Taswiyah. This is the essence of shirk. You're making Allah and other than Allah equal. And where do we get that from? In the Quran. In Surah Shu'ara. Allah says the people, when they go to Jahannam, the non-Muslim, what are they going to say? That very, by Allah tallahi, by Allah we're very in dalal mubin, clear misguidance. Why? إِذْ نُسَوِّيكُمْ, when we made equal between our deities and the Rabbil Alameen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. نُسَوِّيكُمْ بِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. نُسَوِّيكُمْ means taswiyah. Now, Shaykh Ibn Abdul Qayyim, he says, حَقِيقَةُ الشِّرْك. Pay attention, brothers and sisters, to this one. The essence of shirk, هو تشبه بالخالق وتشبيه المخلوق به. This is the essence of shirk, the foundation of shirk. The reality of shirk, Ibn Qayyim says, is to imitate, is when you try to resemble the creator, you, the person, the creation, resembling or trying to resemble the creator, and when the creator is resembled to his creation. Beautiful. Ibn Qayyim says the reality of shirk is when the creation tries to resemble the creator, and when the creator has been resembled to the creation. That's the haqiqah of shirk. That's the essence of it right there. And his kitab, Da wa Dua. Da wa Dua, page 326. Why is this important? We just said when you equate Allah with other than Allah, this is the essence of shirk. But when does it become shirk? When you're equating between Allah and other than Allah and that which is specific for Allah. I'm going to get to what does that mean. But think about it. When someone says, I believe in two gods, what is he saying? I believe one God is creator, one God, other God creates. Only one God is right to creation. He might say that this God I believe in, one God he gives life, another one gives life. That's shirk. You give the quality of giving life, it only belongs to Allah. You give it to someone else. Some might say, I believe in two gods. One of them, he will judge you on Qiyamah, and the other one will also. That's shirk. That's the right of Allah. So shirk is based on resemblance. Whenever you resemble the creation to the creator and the creator to the creation. But we know shirk is shirk when somebody is doing this shirk and they're taking the unique qualities of Allah. This is a difference between Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah and other groups. And I'm saying this because if I'm going to talk to somebody, I have to know when he's doing shirk and when he's not. For example, somebody says that he makes sujood to a sword. The other day I was watching a YouTube video, the Sikh had a celebration, and they were making sujood to the swords of the gurus. Guru Gobind Singh. They had swords, they clean the swords, they make sujood to it, they worship it. Imagine worshipping swords. Is that shirk? Yes. For us it's shirk. Why? Because you're taking the specific quality of Allah, which is ibadah, which only belongs to Allah, you give it to the sword, of all things. Shirk, right? Now, if you ask another person, he might say, well, no, it's not really shirk. Yeah, some Muslims say, well, that's not really shirk. You have to ask him, do you believe the sword has power? Does the sword create? If you say yes, then you're mushrik. Otherwise, you didn't do shirk. And I think if you don't believe me, that's the belief of the Ash'a'ira. Mutakallimun, they believe that. Unless you believe the sword is khariq, and he's the only one who has the ability, who has capacity to make ikhtira', he can create, then that's shirk. It's inside here. But just make a sujood to a sword, depends what his intention is. Like in terms of what is his belief, And I'm saying this because imagine, you and I are going to give da'wah to polytheists. We're looking at this guy is doing shirk. This guy who's worshipping the sword is doing shirk. Another Muslim will come and say, no, brother, that's not shirk. You see, this is the bottom problem right here. And many Muslims, they don't realize that. The average Muslim is being told on YouTube and other things, shirk is if you believe there's a creator besides Allah. Du'at now famous and English speakers are saying this. You have to believe that thing you're worshipping is mustaqil, it's independent, has istiqlal, has independent capacity to create. What kind of nonsense is that? Who believed that? Quraysh didn't believe that. No one believed that. And I'm saying this because if me and you don't know what these terminologies mean, shirk and tawheed, are we giving da'wah properly, right? Imagine you're trying to give da'wah, it happened before. You're trying to give da'wah to someone, some other Muslim comes and interrupts you and ruins your da'wah with his wrong aqidah. Remember once we were giving da'wah and we're trying to explain some words of Allah, that guy came and said, Allah's everywhere. This guy ruined everything. Allah's everywhere. We stopped right there. We got to talk to you first. That's what the brother did. He stopped da'wah. He said, this guy, what is this guy talking about? This guy's wrong. He sabotaged the da'wah. And this happens a lot. Because we all think we're on the same page. We're not brothers. Brothers and sisters, we appreciate Aqeedah Sahih, and many people are upon false Aqeedah, and it's being promoted. So what we take from this, the Aqeedah we study, is the backbone which we're going to build our Aqeedah, our da'wah. So what is shirk? It's not just believing that someone is the creator. We have to, any qualities which is unique to Allah, if you give it to other than Allah, that's shirk. So now the question comes, what are those unique qualities? The ulama, they mention many examples of them, but ultimately, there are so many, right? And so you have to investigate what those qualities are. Scholars, they talk about, if you look at what Ibn Qayyim mentioned there, he mentions, and the scholars, they mention that ultimately, there are many qualities unique to Allah. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one who has the right to creation, right? Who has the only one who can create. Allah is the only one who has perfect attributes and beautiful names. All perfect, all beautiful, lofty. Allah is the only one who's all powerful. Allah is the only one who is all capable. Allah is the only one who's all knowledgeable. So there's so many unique qualities belong to Allah. And why am I saying this? Because the list is many. So imagine any one of those things unique to Allah. If you give it to other than Allah, you did shirk. Whether that be in lordship, worship, names, attributes, rulership, you name it. So the scholars say that it's not limited to one unique quality, it's many. Hence, in order to know if someone's doing shirk, we ask the question, what do you believe? Or what are you doing towards this other entity? Are you giving it a right of Allah, unique, they call khasa'is, unique quality of Allah? If yes, that's shirk. If not, then you have to differentiate between Allah and the creation. I'll give you an example. Someone may say, Allah, His name is Al-Hakim, Allah all-wise. And one of the names we know is Hakim. You can use the name Hakim. Hakim is wise. Luqman al-Hakim. So is it wrong to have the name Al-Hakim? No. That's a name which you can share between Allah and the creation, but with a difference. Allah is all perfectly wise, and we're wise to a certain limit. We're deficient. Right? So that's not shirk if someone says he's going to be Hakim. But if someone now says, I'm Ar-Rahman, that's shirk. Lesh. Because Allah is the only one who has the sifa of Rahmat Wasi'ah. Right? Allah is the only one who can be given the name Ar-Rahman, no one else. You see? Someone says, I believe there's someone named Ar-Rahman besides Allah. That's shirk. That's Asma wa Sifat. Names, attributes. But if he says, I believe in a God or another person, his name is Ar-Rahim. Okay, Rahim is okay. Rahim is compassion. Nabi Sallallahu described Rahim. So you have to know which one is which. But why am I saying this? Because we know intrinsically Allah has all the perfect qualities. And that's what it means to be God, or the creator, and the deity. He has true perfect qualities, and everyone else has something less. They're not like him. But when you make Allah and other creation equal, you did shirk. Even if you say, I believe in one God in my heart, if you're prostrating to another deity besides Allah, or stone or rock, knowing that this is an act of worship belonging to Allah, that's shirk. So you get the point, shirk is this point. Now, I want to highlight something connected to shirk. Shirk, scholars they mention, can be divided in different ways. And it's a good benefit to know what shirk looks like, because when you go outside, you're going to meet all kinds of people, and many people are mushrikun. A mushrik is not a polytheist who worships idol only. That's one type of shirk. So scholars they say, how can you categorize shirk? You can categorize shirk into many categories, but we'll use this category for today. Two overarching categories: shirk in lordship and shirk in worship. So under shirk of lordship falls shirk of the names of Allah, names, attributes, shirk in the oneness of Allah's lordship, like Allah is the only creator, provider, sustainer. And the other one is the shirk in worship. So underneath this point, scholars say shirk of lordship, that one can also divide. And I'm saying this because it helps us to better understand why some groups of people have been called mushrikun, but they don't look like they're doing shirk. So when it comes to the shirk of lordship, you can say the shirk of lordship can divide into categories. Example, shirk in lordship through denial. See, if someone makes ta'til, denies a right belonging to Allah, that's shirk. Another example, shirk bil andad. So he doesn't deny Allah's right, he just adds someone else onto Allah's right. He adds someone else. He adds a partner to Allah. I'm going to give you examples. So shirk of denial. Shirk of rububiyyah, if you categorize it further, shirk of denial. Shirk of a partner. And one more, shirk of resemblance. Right? So when you think about it, let's look at these examples to help you better understand this. Shirk of denial is atheist. Atheist is mushrik. Why? He's denying Allah's right to lordship. See? Many of us think that atheist, what category does he fall into? He's mushrik. Allah is the only one who's the creator, sustainer, provider. And he said, I don't believe in Allah. Fir'aun had this problem. When Fir'aun said, وَمَا رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ, who's Lord of the worlds? And later on said, he is. That's shirk. But what kind of shirk is it? Shirk in the lordship, by way of denial. He denied, he made ta'til, he denied Allah's right. Another example, someone denies the creator's, not his right to creation or the fact that he created us, but he denies his right to worship, the right to his actions in the universe. So he says there is a creator out there, but I don't believe he does anything in the universe. That's a mushrik. Because he denied Allah's right to his actions. So many agnostics are like that. They say, I believe there's a God out there, but I don't know. Or a deist. A deist will say there's a God out there. Okay, so what does God do? Nothing. It doesn't have nothing to do with me and you. That's shirk, fi ta'til. How could there be a God out there who created us and then he just do nothing? There's no relationship between you and him. See, it makes no sense. Another example would be, right, the secularist or the communist who does shirk by cutting off Allah's right to tashri', legislation. Now you're with me? How is a communist a mushrik? He doesn't believe in God. Okay, but if he does believe in God, he thinks you can run the world to communism. Who said that? In hukmu illa lillah. Allah's right to legislation. Allahu al-hukum, hakim wa lahu hukum. Allahu al-hakim wa lahu hukum. That's his name. Allah is the judge. So Allah legislates. Am lahum shuraka shara'u lahum min ad-deen. Am lahum shuraka, Allah says. Do they have partners besides Allah who legislate for that which Allah didn't? So if someone comes today and says, I believe you can run yourself however you want. You're a mushrik. You cut off Allah's right to legislation and give it to yourself. And usually, if you look carefully, the ta'til, when you deny something, what do you do with that right? You give it to somebody else usually. So Fir'aun, he said there's no Allah. Then he made himself Allah. وَقَالَ أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى أَسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهِ. The atheist will come and say there's no God. And he gives the quality of God to natural selection. The Big Bang. Yes, they believe in pseudo agents. You ask them, what do you believe in? He says natural selection. MashaAllah. And you can't see natural selection, right? No. So you can't see Allah, right? You don't believe in him? So he's aql, right? Smart guy. See, brothers, that's so smart. He believes in an unseen, invisible hand that decides our outcome and how we look. Okay, so why is it hard to believe in Allah? Because he predisposedly doesn't want to believe in Allah. Get the point. That same person will say, how can you believe in Jannah? You believe in quarks and atoms. You never saw that one either. That's fil alam. I'm talking about the ghaib. You're talking about dunya. See, they're not very intelligent, brothers. They come, you have to by necessity. If you cut Allah's right, you give it to something else. So they'll come to say, you guys believe in jinn and malaika, and you believe in Big Bang, black holes, and other things you never seen before. MashaAllah. Shirk. It's shirk. Why am I saying this? If you meet an atheist, you can use the same arguments against him. But I'm talking about next week atheism specifically, because atheists, you need a special arsenal of arguments. Because they are people of argumentation. And we have to know how to approach them, because 30% of Canadians now are atheists. Now you're Jews, if a Muslim not to know how to deal with it. It's not permissible today's time like that. Because many of our Muslim brothers and sisters have confusion. It's important. We shouldn't walk around thinking everyone's like, no, they go to university, right? They're studying higher education. That's what happens. But also, we should know they're not any different than these groups. They do shirk, but they also have another type of problem. And another example is shirk by andad, partners. So this is the shirk of who? The shirk of the Christians. So they say God is one, then they add 2 and 3. So that's a mushrik. Because he didn't deny anything, he just added additional beings. So he went from God as one to God as a corporation. You know? That's the argument they use. They say God is like a corporation, and kind of what corporation is this, you know? Or some of them, they're going to come with the funny arguments. There's no analogy for them. The best one they come up with, God is a 3-headed dog. You heard that one, the argument, the mythical 3-headed God. Mentioned by their philosophers, William Lane Craig. Shame on him. This is what you got? God is a 3-headed what? Some fictitious Greek mythology. You had to come up with that. 1 body, 3 heads, and it still didn't work after all that. You just cut it out, right, already. But this is the best of brains. William Lane Craig is a philosopher. That's his best analogy. Imagine you try to prove to someone that God's a what? And if it tells you dog, you're like, Astaghfirullah. Allah says in the Quran about the person who's lowly, مثله كمثل الكلب. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. The lowest example is example of a dog. And this guy's going to say, Trinity is like a 3-headed dog. I'm not making it up, brothers. This is YouTube. You can see it. So as Muslims, we have to pay attention to that shirk fil andad. وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا. Don't take partners with Allah. What kind of shirk is that? Shirk bil rububiyyah bil andad. The mulhid, shirk bil rububiyyah bil ta'til. But that's what the ulama they say في القواعد كتاب مسائل الجاهلية Shaykh Islam Abdul Wahab. What did he say? The asr of ta'til is Fir'aun. Now you understand what he's saying. Masa'il al-Jahiliyyah, Shaykh Islam Abdul Wahab said the asr of ta'til, of denying the attributes of God or denying God, is Fir'aun. He's the father of ta'til because he did ta'til by denying Allah. Now you understand. Because if you don't know that, you say, this is extreme, this statement. No, it's not extreme. It's perfectly correct. Because the ta'til of later groups by denying Allah's attributes starts with the one who denied God himself. The last one is making tashbih, shirk of rububiyyah and lordship by tashbih. Tashbih means you're making a resemblance to Allah. So you say Allah is like the creation. Allah is like the stars. Allah is like the moon. This is clearly haram. Or Allah's attributes are like ours. This is clearly shirk. And the next one, the second category, is the shirk in worship. You give Allah's right of worship to someone else. We all agree to this is wrong. Right? فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. Only pray to Allah, only slaughter for Him, etc. So shirk of worship is the one most of us identify with. But why is this important? Ahlul Sunnah Jama'ah, we consider all these as shirk. So if you met someone who said worship idols, you're going to say, okay, brother, this is shirk. If he's a Muslim, you're going to explain. If he's a kafir, you're going to explain. If someone comes and says, I don't believe in God, I believe that humans can judge themselves, he's a humanist or secularist, he's a mushrik. You can go from here. If he's someone else who says, I believe there is a God out there, but he doesn't have any revelation, that's a mushrik. Bab ta'atil, you talk to that guy there. It's important, brothers. Make tawseef and takeef. We have to make takeef. We have to understand how people are categorized. Because the first problem when you talk to people, you don't know what this guy believes and how to categorize him, right? He's going to come with something, I believe in no organized religion. You know, okay, what is this guy? What is his belief? So you have to come in the categories. Okay, is he a mushrik? Is he a Christian? Is he a Jew? So you can see this category is wide and vast. In fact, today is growing here. Most of the religiosity grows here. Grows in this category. Today we have the people who say, I'm I'm spiritual but not religious. He's a mushrik. Because he believes in wahdat al-wujud usually. Pantheism and stuff. We call New Age spirituality. He's a mushrik. So once you know this benefit of what shirk is, now you better talk to anybody. Because someone comes to you, doesn't matter what he says. He's not a Christian, Jew, Buddhist, so you say, okay, probably he's a mushrik. And he is, because you're going to look at the definition, and now you know what to do. You see, most of the da'wah problems we find, when someone tells you what they believe, you don't know what to even tell the guy, because you don't know what he believes. You never heard that before. Don't worry. Just ask him, okay, tell me a little bit about your belief. When he explains it, you say, okay, that's shirk. That's all I want to hear. What do you believe? You believe this and that? Okay, I'm mushrik. So now I'm going to get my arguments out to talk to you. I don't care what he worships. I don't care what he does. See, sometimes we get caught up in the details. You know, this and that. It doesn't matter. What kitab? What's your aqeedah? Okay, it's very important because once you see this, you can see it's very easy to talk to anybody. But if you don't know the categories, what happens is, oh, I can't talk to him. He guys, I never heard that religion before. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The principles are all the same. So once you understand this, what's the point of this argument? You have to prove the polytheist, okay, you're doing shirk. How? You took Allah's right of worship and gave it to the creation. You just agreed that God is one. Therefore, He should be the only one who deserves worship. But you gave it to another God or another being. So that's false. If He agrees with you that God is one, He has to also agree that worship belongs to Allah. If He agrees Allah is one, He has to agree that Allah is the one who is perfect. So if you ask them, for example, do you believe that there's only one true, all-powerful, all-capable, all-deserving God to worship? If He says yes, that's okay. Now you have to worship, give Him His rights. But most polytheists say, no, I believe that, but I also believe in a lesser God. They call it demigods or other gods. We tell them this is problematic. Why? You just said God is one. And when we say God is one, it can't be that someone else has His rights and qualities. Why? Because that takes away from His oneness. What does it mean for Allah to be one? Allah is one in His names and attributes, one in His actions, one in His deserved right to worship, one in His lordship. So if you give any of those general qualities, that's not, you don't believe God is one. So why is it helpful? Because the Muslim is the only one who believes this. No other religion has this kind of belief. They don't believe the Tawheed we believe. Everyone says monotheism, but what they mean is, I believe there is one big God and a lot of small gods. They say, you're a mushrik. The Muslim is the only muwahid. Okay, how about the Jewish people? They do shirk too. They say God is one, Hashem is one. Okay? And what is His qualities like? They say God is, it's a man. According to the Torah, if you read it, God is described like a man. So what kind of shirk do they have? Shirk in rububiyyah bitamthil. They resemble Allah's creation to His creator. That's the haqiqat of shirk. So if you read the Torah, I know many of us don't, we didn't read the Old Testament. You don't have to read it, but if you ever read any passages, you will see all kinds of amazing things there. Like for example, God took a rest on the seventh day. That's the person saying, Muwahid, I believe one God. What kind of God is this? Haqiqat of shirk, right? He's doing the reality of shirk. He corrected Allah. Why is Allah resting? Well, because God got tired. What kind of God gets tired? He's not Allah. Or they say, for example, in one part of the Bible, it says that one day Musa alayhi salam, Allah was looking for Musa alayhi salam. I don't know why Allah was looking for him. Allah knows everything, right? And it's a very disturbing story, brothers. I don't think they teach that in Sunday school. If you read that part of the Bible, it's very disturbing. Anyways, Allah was angry with Musa because He wanted to kill him. Allah wanted to kill Musa. This is their book. Allah asked and when Allah came, He didn't find Musa. He asked his wife and this, and it keeps going. The story gets worse. What kind of story is this? Another one, the best one. Then into this story, one day, Yaqub alayhi salam, he wrestled with God. Ya hawla wa la quwwata. See, the Christians, ulama use Ibn Qayyim and Taymiyyah, they take these verses deeply to the point. They take it to all the way to logical extent, full of it. They say, oh no, that's not what it means. Okay, explain to me. What was going on? One day Yaqub was walking at night, he met a dark figure. They started wrestling all night. And finally, the other being hit him in the thigh, injured him. And then God gave him, or the one who fought him, gave him the name you are, Israel or something. I don't think he gave him Israel. I think he gave him the name, the Son of God or something. And later on he found out that was Allah. A'udhu billah. This isn't the book, brothers. This is their book. They say we're muwahideen. You're mushrikun. What kind of aqeedah is that? Now most of us have never heard this. But imagine somebody say, I believe in one. This is the God you believe in? So they interpret the verse differently. They say, no, that was an angel. So they tell them, why did the angel call him the Son of God? The angel doesn't have the right to say that. Then someone say, no, he's wrestling God metaphorically. See, this is what we're going to talk about later. The Yehud, they ran towards the majaz, metaphorical interpretation, the same way that Asha'ira also did, and other groups like Mu'tazila and the Jahmiyyah. This is dangerous because we have to talk about this idea of allegorizing the text, majaz. We'll talk about later, it's a problem. Anyway, so they say, no, it's a metaphor. Okay, so what was God wrestling with Jacob? So why was Jacob wrestling with the law of God? Because they say it wasn't God himself, so he was wrestling with God's command? What kind of obedient servant is this? See, Ibn Qayyim says, anyway, look at it. This is terrible. Whatever's going on here. It's God or God's law. Why is Yaqub wrestling? And the worst part is God was losing, according to the story. A better one, the beginning of Genesis. If you read the beginning of the Kitab, right? The story of Adam, Eve, Adam, Hawa. Their qissa, brothers and sisters, doesn't make any sense. No wonder most of them don't finish the Kitab. They don't read the Torah, and most of them not. I don't blame them. If you read the story, it doesn't make sense. As we said, Shaitan told Adam and Hawa, if you eat from the tree, you live forever, right? According to their book, it says God said, if you eat from the tree, you're going to die. They ate from the tree, they didn't die. So that's why the Satanists came and said, the Bible says God was lying. Because they ate from and they didn't die. Astaghfirullah alim. You guys don't know already. All bala goes back to the Bible in some way or form. All of it. Vegan, he's in the Bible. Satanist, he's in the Bible. Communist, secular, he's in the Bible. Wallah, everything you can find in the Bible. So if you ask them, what happened in that story? Who lied? And then we read our story, it makes so much sense. God said you're going to die. He didn't die. So what's going on here? And I'm saying this because they have a problem with Tawheed. Asma wa Sifat and Tawheed bab shirk bab tamthil. They make Allah like the creation. And when you look at this, you start seeing, oh, they have a problem too. That's why the Muslims give da'wah through this chapter of Tawheed. You know, when the ulama said Tawheed first and last, this is what they mean. Any group you can think of, Tawheed. Mushrik, Tawheed. Atheist, start with Tawheed. You start with the Jew-Christian, Tawheed. But what's happened today as a community, Muslims were not realizing the power of Tawheed. Because it's not self-evident anymore when the fitrah got corrupted. When the fitrah gets corrupted, what do you have to do? You have to recalibrate the fitrah to guide the person back to the straight path. The last argument I'll present today, if someone agrees to these two arguments, the last one we're going to say is that if you believe there's only one true God, who has the right to rububiyyah, lordship, who is the creator, provider, sustainer, all the rights, and this God is only one, not two or more than one. Therefore, you have to worship this God. The logical necessity between Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. Aqeedah Ahl-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah, our belief is, brothers, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, God's Tawheed al-Lordship, necessitates the Tawheed of worship. It's a very important principle. Necessitates. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah selzimu Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. What it means, if you say God is one, perfect. He's the only creator. He has all the specific unique qualities that only belong to Him. By necessity, you have to worship that one God. You cannot tell me then I worship another God. So how does it work? If Allah is the only true creator, then that one creator deserves the worship because He created you. Why do we worship Allah? Because He created us. And why Allah created us? Worship Him. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. That's why Allah created us. Why Allah created us? يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمْ الَّذِي خَلَقَكُمْ. Khalas. We worship Allah because He created us. Why did He create us? To worship Him. But if someone worships another God, tell them why you worship that God. What qualities does He have? What right does He have to claim to worship? They'll say, oh, He's perfect? No, only God is perfect. Did He create you? No. Does He provide for you? No. Does He sustain you? No. So don't worship Him. Worship belongs to the one who created you. Makes sense? It's very simple. But the necessities, logical necessities, is a necessary link, not subjective, necessary. Because the one who you worship created you, provided for you, sustains you, takes care of you. Therefore, you must thank Him. And how do you thank Him? Worship. Now take this mushrik and say, okay, this God, this rock you're worshipping, did He create you? No. Does He sustain you? No. Does He provide for you? No. Why do you provide for it? Allah said, I don't want any provision from you. Because the polytheists to feed, and still today the Hindus, they give milk to their gods. Allah said, I don't want food from you. So they provide for it. We say, does Allah provide for you? Does this thing give you protection? No. Because He can't protect Himself. Therefore, it cannot have a right to claim to God. That's it. It cannot have a right to claim to deity, worship or ilah. What is an ilah? Is that which you worship. Why do you worship it? Because it is the creator. Because it has perfection. And you see, when you come with Tawheed Rabbiyya, you must worship Allah. Because not only is it logically correct, it also makes sense from the fitrah. Think about it. Someone comes today and says, I'm going to worship a rock. What did the rock do for you to devote your whole life to him? Nothing. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Messenger gave the example of shirk, hadith and Tirmidhi and others. He said the example of shirk is like a man who's a businessman, who gives his money and wealth to his maid or servant and tells him to go work for me, make the profit and bring it back to me. The man goes to work, makes the profit and gives it to a random person. Which one of you like that the Prophet said? See? Today, someone did that in dunya, would say, this guy's fired immediately. Allah created you, provides for you, and then when you go, you worship some random thing. Right? See, that's the essence of shirk. Why? Because ungrateful. The kafir is an ingrate. Because kufr comes from this idea of ingratitude. So if someone says, okay, Allah created me, every day He takes care of me, He protects me, makes my heart beat, I have to thank Him. Good. مَا يَفْعَلُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابِكُمْ إِن شَكَرْتُمْ آمَنْتُمْ. What is Allah going to do with your punishment? If you are thankful to Him, by way of worship and the likes, and you are believing in Him. If you tell the brothers and sisters, if you talk to a mulhid or anyone about this point, they will concede immediately. Who gave you 2 eyes? They're never going to say myself. They're going to say somebody. Okay, who is that somebody? Call him what you want to call him for now. Who would give it to you? Not you, right? What do you do for that person? He's going to say, oh, nothing. See, so ungrateful. He even sounds shameful if he says that. I don't do anything, really. Imagine if someone asked someone that, he'd be like, oh, astaghfirullah, you look so bad. Tell him now, okay, if I do good to you right now, you're going to thank me, right? So why are you thanking me and someone who gave you everything, then you thanking them? You're not thanking them? لا يشكر الله من لا يشكر الناس. But if you don't thank the people, you thank the people because this is the essence to help you thank Allah. We thank Allah first and foremost. But if you ask someone, what's ibadah? Ibadah is devotion, love, absolute humiliation. For who? The one who created you and the one who takes care of you. You love Him. But if you ask the mushrik, why do you give your worship to someone who didn't do nothing for you? He feels he can't answer you. So therefore, Tawheed Rabbiyya must lead to Tawheed Al-Uluhiyyah. Otherwise, it's logically incoherent. Anyone says, I'm going to worship random thing. Now, even someone says, okay, how about prophets and messengers? Prophets and messengers are righteous, but they didn't create you. They don't provide for you. They don't take it. Only Allah can do that. Now, if you think about the mushrik, he's not even standing on logical grounds because the mushrik does shirk from hawa. Shirk, the problem with it is it's illogical, it is desire-oriented, it's based on desires, and it doesn't make a person benefit. It makes them weaker. An example, the Quraysh, they knew this. When the Quraysh were rebuilding the Kaaba, but they used the hadith Kaab, he said when they were rebuilding the Kaaba, he said that time they took down the stones. And one of the stones, he said, I found a shiny stone. Every time I find a shiny stone, I'll take it and I'll worship it. That's what he said he would do. That time he wasn't Muslim. So one day I found one nice shiny stone, I took it with me, and I left it in his house. And he said one day a dog came, and was peed on my dog, my idol. So I ran to chase it and I ran away. Then I realized, what kind of God is it? That a dog can pee on it, it can't do anything. See, it's ajis, it's not God. So he realized that this shirk doesn't make sense. That's why I realized shirk doesn't make any sense. Because the person doing shirk, you tell them, even if you don't agree with my evidence from the Quran and Sunnah, logically, what are you worshipping? Are they equal to you? Then they don't deserve worship. They have to be greater than you. Are they lower than you? It's even worse. So you see some people worshiping a rock, I said the sword, it's a less than you. It cannot be Allah. And how do we know that? Because when Ibrahim a.s. was arguing with these people to prove Allah is one and the oneness of Allah, he used the example of the sun and the moon and the sun. He said, Hada Akbar, that's bigger. He's trying to argue with them. See, that's bigger. That one's probably more deserving to worship. Then when it's set, I don't like the one things that's set. But why did he say Hada Akbar? Because that's Aql. Aql is you worship something bigger than you, not some rock or something. Some people worship animals smaller than them. What kind of Aql is this? Or you worship another human being. He's just like you. He goes to the washroom, you go to the washroom. It can't be Allah. So why am I saying this? Because a mushrik will concede Allah is one, but he's struggling with this part. Because he knows he's supposed to worship. Tell him, what is worship? Everything Allah loves and is pleased with. What is worship? It's absolute love and absolute humility. Why do you have absolute humility to something that's not all powerful? Why do you have absolute love for something that didn't do much for you? It can only be for Allah. So if someone accepts the first two arguments, then alhamdulillah, he must logically accept the third one. And in fact, I believe it's one of the most easiest arguments to present, the idea of gratitude. Most of us, we know we're not grateful enough, but a kafir, the atheist admits that they're lacking in gratitude. The polytheist will also admit that all the gods he worships, one of them he gives them more worship. Right? Another one he kind of neglects them. Tell them the one you give more, why? You might be like, well, that one is more special because it has to come with something, otherwise it makes no sense. So alhamdulillah, this is some arguments we can use, and it will also allow us to the correct aqeedah, be able to present da'wah to these kinds of people, because they're out there today, brothers and sisters, and we have to know how to deal with them. And if we don't, then we're going to fall short. Not only in our responsibility, when we have the opportunity with da'wah, we should take it. But also remember, it's not, you don't need a lot of knowledge to da'wah, you just need solid foundation. The whole point of this class teaches sound, foolproof arguments from the ulama, who rasikhun fi ilm, those who firmly grounded knowledge. And also the aqeedah which is correct. Because like I said, as we continue our lessons, we're going to see the importance of the correct creed. If you don't have the correct creed, you're going to have mistakes in your da'wah, because you're not going to base on the right answers, the right foundations. Then the person who you argue with, if he's any clever, he might catch you, or he might find a loophole or in your argument, and it collapses. Lastly, da'wah is an expression of what we already believe. We call on people to what we believe. So to do da'wah, you first need to know Islam. It teaches the value of aqeedah, brothers and sisters. So when people ask, why do we study aqeedah so much? Aqeedah is very important. It's very important for your life and for your da'wah. But you see, the arguments we're presenting, these are mentioned by who? The imams who taught the aqeedah and also responded to the different groups. From where? The books of aqeedah. For example, Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he's not a single group out there he didn't respond to. You name it. Atheists, philosophers, Hindus, Jews, even though there's no Hindus, I'm mushrik, anyone, he argues with them. And he's using the same principles he prints in his books of aqeedah. Wasatiyya, wal-Hamawiyya, wal-Tadmuriyya, those books that Al-Fajr is teaching us, those same books allow the person to do da'wah, to teach others. But if we skip those books and we say, let's do da'wah, then no, you're not going to be able to, because what you're going to present? You don't know correctly what your aqeedah is, and you might see something wrong. Also, you need to be remembered, da'wah is a higher order responsibility. Not everyone has to do it, only some people. But the value of knowing how to give da'wah to other people, you can also start seeing what Islam is and what Islam is not. You see, now we quickly realize the difference between Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. It is not even close. When someone says Abrahamic faiths, absolutely wrong. What Abrahamic faith? ما كان إبراهيم يهودي ولا نصرانية. It was never a Jew or Christian. ولكن كان حنيفا مسلما. And if someone says we're all the same, that person clearly Tawheed is problematic. If you ever hear someone say we're all the same, what are you talking about? This one says God is a man, this one says God's kind of like a man. And we say God is not even close to a man. And I think this is also showing you a lot of the people who are talking on behalf of Islam, we also need to be also careful about what they're telling us. A lot of Muslims, they just listen to everything. Ask yourself, is that correct? Judaism, Christianity, Islam are the same. We are shared similarities, have big differences. But also if someone like a young Muslim were to ask us, what makes Islam special? Question for Muslims, where should I begin? What do you need me to show you Islam is the religion of Allah? From the Aqeedah, from the fiqh, from the politics, from the adab, I can bring you many ways Islam is unique. And the very fact that Islam has all these angles, brothers and sisters, means Islam is a deen la haqq. There is no doubt. We should not have doubt. But our young Muslims, the young generation, they need more of this. Because they think Islam is like any other religion. We're just born Muslim, they were born Christian, they were born Hindu, whatever. So everybody just, no. It doesn't work like that. We're born Muslim, all of us. And Allah allowed us as Muslims to grow up Muslim and keep Muslim. The other people were born Muslim and their parents raised them other than Muslim. So what's our job then? To bring them back to the fitrah of Islam they were born on. That's our job. Because once we figure out that Allah allowed us to continue upon Islam, which we're all born with, submitting to one Creator, and worshiping Him alone, we need to think about the people around us who are walking around, فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا. They're walking on all kinds of darkness they can't get out of. Think about it. Empathize with people. They're walking around in فِي الظُّلُمَات, brothers. Absolute misguidance. One ayah that probably you learned years ago could change that guy's life. One ayah. Because he doesn't have wahi, he doesn't have guidance. So whatever you learn, share it. You use it, inshallah, in da'wah, co-worker. And don't think that you don't know. That person maybe doesn't know much. You also might not know much, but you know more than him. You know that much. And even if you don't know more than him, you think so, you're upon the haqq. The haqq will do enough for you. So the haqq is sufficient to establish. And you see it when you talk to people. Just present it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to benefit by it. Inshallah, we'll take any quick questions if there are. Any questions? Yeah. I don't see any online question. You have your phone? Yeah. If somebody's wealthy and they need to be convinced that they need Allah after getting wealth, it's very simple. Where did you get that wealth from? It's the same argument, gratitude. Where did you get all that from? Your hard work? No, most wealthy people are not there's no such thing as self-made millionaire anyways. Everyone has someone to help them. But most people inherit wealth or opportunities or privileges. You ask them, where did that come from? How come you're wealthy and someone else is poor? So the idea, and how can you maintain your wealth? And how do you show gratitude for the fact that you have it? So a lot of times you see the person who's wealthy, he might think and this is one of the dangers. Atheism connected to affluence. The wealthy you are, the more religious you are. Fir'aun had a lot of money. Kam tarakum min jannati wa na'im. So how many jannat and power gardens have to have behind the rivers and all kinds of things. So it's part of his guidance was affluence. But when someone has a lot of money, he still needs Allah. Because who's going to protect your money? Right? How do you make sure that your anxiety will disappear? Rich people have financial and a lot of other anxieties. Day and night, they worry about the money. Tell them, okay, where did you get the money from? How do you show gratitude for the fact you have money? How do you explain to people who are poor and you're not? And how about charity? That's what, so this is a worship that comes, so you can show the person that wealth doesn't help. Wealth is just a means. You need to have a belief. And most people who are wealthy, they also have a lot of guilt because they know that their wealth that they have doesn't really make sense compared to the people who are poor. That's why today all the billionaires are pledging to give the money when they die to the poor. We're going to talk about it later, but the idea of generosity. Generosity is connected to religiosity. The richest people are not the most generous people. The generous people are the richest people, poor or rich. And we asked them why, because generosity is part of faith, but also generosity is a paradox. It's called the paradox of generosity. When you give, you get less, but you get more. When you're supposed to get less, but you get more. So all the rich people give, tell them you give so much, why don't you get reward for that? Don't you want to get some recognition? You need God. You need Allah to reward you. But also the rich people, a lot of times what happens in life as they're wealthy, something happens in life that will test them. And the big question we asked them is that while you're comfortable now, what about the akhirah? That is the reality we have to ask. Because religion is not about Allah now worshiping Allah. We're worshiping Allah to get to His Jannah later. So you can get ready to meet Him. Don't you want to meet the Creator who created you? And that's the whole point. It doesn't matter how you live now. The question is, where are we going? And so most rich people, the hard part is they doesn't want to take that message. But that's because he feels like he's self-sufficient. Right? Allah says in the Quran, mankind sees himself to be self-sufficient. Arrogant, usually when he has. But the problem also, we have to say, rich people, they need faith. They need guidance, they need du'as, they need protection, and that's what Allah is for. So you can argue in many ways to them, but show them that, and also gratitude. But I feel like a lot of times it's hard because they feel that they're good to go. But life also goes up and down, So sometimes Allah will take that certain person who has everything and He's going to make them miserable. Also, I believe that a lot of the rich people, if they're not religious, they're not happy anyways, right? He's going to have a miserable life. So outwardly, mashallah, in the heart, that's why all these celebrities have become Muslim day and night. Why? Because in their heart, Ibn Kathir in his tafsir, mentioned that apparently, no matter kafir, no matter what food he has, he says, no matter what clothes he eats, he's always miserable and a state of anxiety. It is true. The kafir is sitting in his mansion, taking drugs inside the mansion by himself. That's subhanAllah, one day, or he's got everything and he just wants to take his life. So a lot of times you see that peace. It comes with religion. You see, you need Allah. Because otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. So these are some ways you can approach them. And we have to also realize that that's a fitna for that person as well. Allahu A'lam. Any other questions? Yeah, I don't have my phone yet.
Are there things that unite Muslims and Christians? If there are, and how do you construct your argument to refute their Christianity?
So the brothers ask, the question is asking, is there things that unite Muslims and Christians, and how can we construct the argument to towards them based on that. Yeah, we're going to get to the Christians. Yeah, we're going to get to them. But the idea they are. Like we believe in Isa and Maryam. They believe Isa and Maryam. They believe in Maryam. We believe in Maryam. So there are things we believe that they believe. We believe in the prophets before. We believe in the Injil and Torah, the true form. So many things that we believe. But the problem between us and them is that their aqidah is mistaken. And they ignore the prophecies of Muhammad in their own book. And we studied that in the Proofs of Prophethood class. So what we do when we talk to Christians, we become a unique way. We use the commonality to bring forth that you have no choice. Accept Muhammad or don't be Christian. Or reject Isa. Or if you accept Isa and Maryam as the true prophet, or you say God, like they say, then you have to also concede that other gods existed. Because they say Isa is uniquely God. Why him? Why not Moses? Why not Muhammad? Why not anyone else? But we see that when you talk to Christians, you want to highlight some of this commonality. Go to the story of Isa and Maryam and use that story to show you the Islamic version versus theirs. They are also aware that there are lots of different views of it. So Ja'far, when he gave da'wah to Najashi, he started with that. Najashi is a Christian, so he read to him Surah Maryam. When Najashi heard the story, because it talks about the miraculous birth of Maryam, he became Muslim. Because the Christians believe in that generally. I mean, not all Christians. I think the Catholics specifically, more specifically. Protestants, not everyone believes in it. So the point is that you can use that. And you say, look, this is the belief of Isa. But where the division comes is where the Muslim has to know. And we'll talk about later. How do you explain to them the crucifixion story? What's the Islamic version of crucifixion? Did it happen? No, it didn't. And what's our answer? And just for if you don't know, Christians, the Bible also says that it happened. I'm going to talk later. The Bible also says the crucifixion never happened. I know they say it does, because that's the make all end all of Christianity. As Paul said, there's no crucifixion, there's no Christianity. And we're going to argue, the Bible says there's no crucifixion. We'll show later how to explain, but that's one of the big ones they get stuck on. And I've seen even on YouTube, someone accepts everything of Islam, and they get stuck here. Okay, one thing I didn't get it. What happened to Isa? And it's a lot of Muslims, if you ask them, like, we know our version, but the details are very great. So we're going to talk about that. But for Christians, the big thing is the Tawheed. Because remember, he's number one difference. Agreement is not going to get us too many places. You want to show them that, look, I agree with everything you believe in, generally. And I also have the correct versions of those stories, which you don't have. And I have the Tawheed. You're missing the Tawheed, and you have corrupted stories as well. The beliefs you have are corrupted. You can also see that Muslims are the most fairest group. We're the only group that believes in all three prophets. So they don't accept Muhammad, and they accept Jesus and Musa. Jews don't accept Muhammad or Isa. We accept all three. So once they hear that, like, oh, mashallah, you guys are good. You accept all three of them? So yeah. And that's why we use this argument. Or, for example, the fact that we can marry Ahl Kitab. That's the point that comes. But so we'll talk about that, inshallah, more. What kind of arguments we can present to them. But there are many of them. Yes, brother? Yes? Yes, it's true. Yeah, it's true. The brother mentioned that in the Bible, Abraham, and Musa, and Isa fasted 40 days and prostrated on sujood. Yeah, it's true. That's why we do these things. So that's our proof that Islam is all connected. Yeah. And some of them believe he was born circumcised, but the more correct, he was circumcised. But yeah, it shows you our religion. And some people came to Islam because of this. Right? That Muslims are the only religion, they're prostrate. There's more than 200 references more in the Bible about prostration. Some Christians prostrate, but they do wrong sujood. The sujood is not correct. They lie down flat on the ground. That's not the sujood. Sujood has a correct way. But if you ask them, what are you doing? They say, well, yeah. But for the Christians, the problem with the sujood is very problematic for them. Why? Because who was he prostrating to? He's God. See, that's what they get stuck with. Book of Matthew, who was he prostrating to? To himself? See, it's problematic. They say, no, in fact, they don't even prostrate. Forget about who they're prostrating to. So that's a good point to mention. Allah on this. So why do we study the works of these two Imams, Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim? Because these are two of the greatest scholars of the latter generation of Islam. In their efforts in spreading the correct Islam, in every single subject of Islam, They did great work that some of it wasn't paralleled in the past, especially considering the time period they were in, the doubts they were raised, and the problems they were facing. And also the knowledge of these two Imams. They were, of course, not infallible, but when it comes to the Aqeedah, and when it comes to the fiqh, when it comes to many other topics, they did tremendous work. You seldom will find the depth of work of Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah and his student Ibn Qayyim. And these two Imams for Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah is an honor. Right? We have these Imams in there who combine between both logical arguments and textual evidences, memorization of all these ahadith, the fiqh, the views they hold, and the qawa'id, the principles they establish. They are the great scholars who make easy access to knowledge of Salaf. Because the earlier scholars, Sahaba, and the Salaf, their students, Tabi'un after, those are the real origin. That's our understanding is based on. But their knowledge is hard to access because they speak with less words and deep meaning. So scholar Ibn Taymiyyah, he's expounding on these things. He expounds on the explanation with great depth. And when I say depth, he goes on pages explaining on many different angles. And so his work, in reality, him and his student, their work, they're unique in Islam and also extremely beneficial. And you also see Shaykh Islam did something the other people didn't do, which is he addressed the doubts of his era, which continue to linger, which are the philosophical issues. So Ibn Taymiyyah dealt with things that the Salaf, they dealt with in partial ways, because as time went, more doubts came. And he dealt with the way where he just uprooted the tree from the roots. So he didn't just break the branch, he took the whole tree out. And if you see the way that he argues and how his students argue and the benefits they bring, in many ways it's a shortcut for the student to understand how the Salaf used to learn. And as the scholars say, when you study the basics, you study their work a lot, you see how they defended the Aqeedah and defended the fiqh, but also it's something that as Muslims we're proud to say these are the correct Imams. It's hard to explain when you have to look at comparative study, you look at the arguments that he presents versus his predecessors. It's like night and day. And everyone after Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, who follows him or doesn't follow him, they follow his views. Now, for example, Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he revived the idea that 3 talaqs are equal to 1. We know this is the view of Abdullah ibn Abbas and the Sahaba. And Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, 3 talaqs, if you make 3 talaqs, it only counts as 1. That's the correct view of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And the fuqaha, they differed. Right? The fuqaha differed. So it's a different opinion, but the more correct view, at the time of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, 3 was 1. Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah went to jail for that fatwa. At his time, he said that 3 talaqs said at one time is only 1 talaq. Today, everyone takes that view. Right? Because everyone does talaq having all day and night. And so now they're like, oh yeah, Shaykh Islam, he was correct in that interpretation. Because where is the argument? Based on the Quran, the Sunnah, and Sahaba. But he took the hit for that. He went to jail, imagine. The people who jailed him today are saying his view. Shows you, again, the influential, because he's Shaykh Islam's mind, the way he thinks, he'll bring you from the Salaf. He doesn't bring from his own pocket. Some things he did unique. And no one did. For example, using the terminologies of philosophy against the philosophers. Like Greek logic, he has the best criticism of Greek philosophy or logic against the Greeks. I mean, he studied it and he refuted it. So later on, Enlightenment thinkers like Kant and others, they copied these arguments. Can you imagine? People who are coming 300 years later are saying the same thing Ibn Taymiyyah said. No one knows that because the non-Muslims don't speak Arabic. I actually secretly believe some of them they knew Ibn Taymiyyah. And there's some good buhuth about that. The Kant, I think he read Ibn Taymiyyah. Allahu A'lam. There's some proof of that because they used to look at others. And so his arguments are unique, and also he will also take positions based on the usul of Sunnah Jama'ah. He did things that were beneficial for his time, but it also leaves a blueprint that we can continue to build from. Scholars today are continuing that kind of legacy of taking the contemporary issues and bringing them back. So these two great Imams, you will not fail if you study them in learning, especially the Aqeedah. And then fiqh, of course, like any other method or views, there's ijtihad. But what's unique about these Imams is the combination of the usul of Ahl Sunnah Jama'ah, Quran, Sunnah, Ijma' Qiyas. They always adhere to that, the way of the Salaf in their understanding. Never they go against the Salaf, they always have someone who says it, they agree. So this is why we like their work. And if someone were to read it, even a small bit, you can see that kind of special quality. Allah gave them unique talents. So Allah have mercy on these great Imams. And we're not only restricting to ourselves to them. Ahl Sunnah Jama'ah, we're fair. We take from all the ulama upon the correct methodology, and those who are misguided even, we give them credit for the khair they present in the ummah. We're fair with them. May Allah guide them, forgive them for their mistakes. But the other groups, other religions, unfortunately, methodologies, they're not fair. So they malign Ibn Taymiyyah unfairly, and they take their, they try to create a kind of him versus him. But Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah had good views of Ghazali. He praised him, talked nicely about him, didn't say, but he refuted him also when he was wrong. So justice is also a quality of Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah. Also he had, that was very, very nice. When he refuted his opponents, he was just. He would never lie. He would say exactly as they said. And as he will quote from them too. So this is one reason why we rely upon their works as ulama, their advice. طيب, we shall end with this much. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.